It's Patioside Chats with Fernando Martinez from Chaparral Pavers with tips and advice on landscaping and gardening. Here's Fernando Martinez.
Hello, and welcome to another show. Glad to have you here. Today we got a great topic. Happy to be here, happy to tell you about it. And today's topic is about lawns. And a lot of us still have grass, even though we've been kind of dealing with this drought for quite a long time now. There's still a need for it. If you've got pets or if you have kids, if you like to play lawn games outside, sports, all kinds of uses for it for that. Or if you just like that nice, dark, cool green color, the way it feels, hot summer day, a nice cool lawn, the water just turned off. You've got that, kind of makes you feel like maybe you're out on the fairway, kind of a golf course kind of feel. There's still a lot of good reasons why you would still have grass or why you would plant new lawn. So I did want to, seems like everybody's been kind of anti-lawn these days, and I don't know, it kind of gets a bad rap, I think, because there are ways to have nice, beautiful green grass and not spend a ton of water. They have low flow nozzles. There's deep-rooted grasses, that have been hybridized over the years to become semi-drought tolerant. It is absolutely one of the toughest plants in the world, really, where you can walk on it, mow it, roll around on it, play soccer on it. It just grows right back. It's amazing plant. So I want to talk about what to do to repair sod that's been damaged, either by gophers. They seem to be kind of another enemy against grass and tearing up the lawn. But so how do we repair it? Because it doesn't last forever. And that brings up another question. How long does it last? When do you need new sod? When is it okay to just reseed or, kind of patch it up? How do we fertilize it? When do we fertilize? How do we address weeds? And do we do that with chemicals? How often do you do that? How's that all kind of come together? So those are what we're going to address, and here we go. So let's get right into it. We had a question come through on our Facebook about this, and I wanted to remind everybody, go to our Facebook page. If you want to get your question answered on the radio and something you're interested in and you want that topic to be addressed, go to our Facebook page at Chaparral Pavers. We're a landscape company right here in Santa Maria, and I do this show because I just love being in this industry. I love getting the word out. I want to drive around and see everybody's yard beautiful and the neighborhood's well kept, and it just makes such a difference in our lives. And I love going and doing a job, especially a front yard, and the neighbors are coming over. Everybody wants to kind of see what's going on over here and what are they doing, and hey, what are you guys going to be putting in here? And it just elevates the feel of the neighborhood. People are curious. Then sure enough, guy down the street, he wants to do something. Somebody else they're going to do their own project or whatever, and they're kind of fixing it up. It's very catchy, and just be aware too, it's the opposite is true as well. So if you're letting your yard run down, your neighbor lets his yard run down, and then pretty soon the neighbor's like, well, why should I take care of my place? This guy, he's letting his place run down. It's not going to do me any good to fix my place up. And so both ways, I love going the positive direction and being that, inspiration for my neighbors and my yard, because people do. They come by, they see my yard, the flowers are blooming, the plants, and I have kind of an eclectic mix, and I have a nice dark green, beautiful, not a huge lawn. I think it's only maybe 1,200 square feet of grass that I have in my front. I got the low flow nozzles, but I've got it to where the roots are nice and deep, and it still looks really good. And, it just helps lift up everybody. So definitely be one of those people that are helping lift up the neighborhood. Now, let's talk about the repairing aspect of it, because that was part of the question, what they were wanting to know about. And I do see that where lawns get damaged over time, either from sprinklers are not being properly covered, or from gophers like we talked about, where they'll come up and actually, damage an area of the lawn, or they'll put a big old pile of dirt that gets left there for a few days, a week, and then you have a dead spot. So that is one actually really good thing about lawns is they are pretty easily repairable. And if you want to, address the lawn as a whole, we can talk about that in a minute when we talk about reseeding versus, new sod and how long does it last. So let's just talk about the repairing aspect of it right now. What you can do, there's a couple different ways that you can do it. So number one, let's address the sprinklers. If the sprinklers are not spraying properly and you consistently get a dry spot and then that dry spot ends up dying, there's no repairing it, fixing it, whether you put new seed or put a new piece of sod or something down, the same thing's obviously just going to happen again. So you have to address the coverage. So make sure that you have what is called head-to-head coverage. That means that each sprinkler head needs to spray out to another sprinkler head. And they can hit as many as 4 heads in one area. So if one head's spraying out towards another head, say 10 feet, 12 feet, there should be another head right there spraying back to that head. And let's say you go to the right, well, to the left, there should be another head 10, 12 feet apart spraying back to that head. Across the lawn should be, 10, 12 feet. And if their lawn is 20 feet, you have to put a circle in the middle, and that head sprays 10 feet back to the other head. That is head-to-head coverage. And so the sprinklers are not in charge of watering around themselves. They're actually, the water sprays out away from the head. So it's responsible for watering around the heads that are out away from it. So keep that in mind when you're checking the coverage. The best way to tell is when the heat comes, and we've been having some hot days. So if it gets really hot and you haven't changed the sprinklers, you'll see your hot spots, or is what I call them, on your grass, where they're kind of damaged. And then you can go check your head-to-head coverage and make sure that you're getting the best coverage that you can. So once you get that repaired, sometimes it could be a clogged screen, and it could just be, or even the nozzle. A little grain of sand gets past the screen and clogs up the nozzle. It's not spraying correctly. You get a dry spot. It damages the grass. It needs to be repaired. 2 ways to repair it, really. First, rake any dirt out from gophers or whatever and get the area flat and level. And then you can use seed, but be careful because you have to get the same exact seed of the lawn that you have. Because if you don't, it's not going to match. Could be a different color, could grow taller, and you could actually make your lawn look worse. So 90% of the lawn, I don't know what the actual percentage is. I don't have any statistics on it, but most lawns are going to be dwarf fescue. So if you're not sure what you have, it's a medium wide blade. You don't have to mow every week. You can go 2 weeks without mowing. Highly likelihood you have what's called dwarf fescue. And you should be able to find the seed for that. And maybe you grow a little bit of it in one area first before you go seeding the whole lawn, and make sure that it's the same. Or if you can find out where you bought the sod from, if you were the one that actually installed it. And it's good to write that down if you are installing a new sod lawn so that you can buy that seed later. Another way to do it, and perfectly fine way, because they carry sod now at a lot of different places. You can go down to a box store and they'll sometimes have a pallet sitting there, and you can just buy a few pieces. You can cut out the areas, because you can't just really throw it down on top because you'll be too high. There's usually an inch of soil attached to the sod, so you need to dig it down, a little more work, and prep the area and then lay that sod in there. The advantage to the extra work that you have to put in is that it's already grown. You don't have to wait for the seed to come up. You don't have to water quite as much as you would with seed. And you can tell pretty much right away just by looking at it whether it's going to match or not. And again, it's most likely dwarf fescue. So that's the repairing. Now, if you were to put a sod lawn down, how long does this last? I mean, how many years can I expect to get out of a sod lawn? So that's a pretty common question. I want to address it today. I think you can probably, the right answer is it depends. I hate to say that, but it's like one of those things. It just really depends on how you treat it, how much work you do to it, and whether you renovate the lawn or you choose not to renovate the lawn. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. Everything is perfectly fine, so don't worry about it. Don't get feeling like, oh my gosh, I've never renovated my lawn, so what? Who cares? You put new sod. It's a pretty cheap thing to do as far as landscaping is concerned. It's not one of the higher ticket items. So you can they rent sod cutters down at the rental yard. You come through with a sod cutter, let's say 5 years. If you plant a brand new sod lawn and do absolutely nothing for 5 years, you barely fertilize it, you don't overseed, you're not putting compost down, you're not, thatching it or aerating it or anything. After about 5 years, the weeds are going to start to take over. And we're going to talk about weeds in a second. Weeds are constantly seeding in all the time. Birds, wind, your neighbors got weeds, the fields have weeds. They're everywhere. There's nothing we can do about it. They're going to get into the lawn. The lawn itself is not reseeding. We're mowing it, we're cutting it off. We never if we never mowed the grass, eventually the grass would flower and go to seed and the seeds would drop off and they would, try to regenerate. But nobody keeps their lawn like that. It wouldn't look good. So if we're not reseeding the lawn and the weeds are constantly seeding in, the weeds are going to win the battle in about, like I say, like 5 years or so. Now, if you're fertilizing regularly, you're using, some sort of weed control, and you do some dethatching, and you add compost occasionally, and you're really like taking care of the lawn and renovating the lawn while you're, living there and owning it, then there actually, I would say like 10 years, maybe more. And again, it depends, because if you're really doing it a lot, maybe you're just constantly renovating and you always have a gorgeous lawn. I don't know if there's any actual lifespan where the lawn itself would stop growing at some point, even with all the proper care. So, but mostly it's just because it's, you can only do so much with the sod. It's only going to last so long. Not all of us have all this time to be out there renovating our lawn. I think I've done it twice in probably 6-7 years that I lived at my house. But I have done it, and I do have Bermuda grass. It's coming in now, and I see it. And Bermuda grass is one of the worst because it's got these little tiny, tiny, tiny seeds. They throw up these little finger-like flowers, bazillion seeds on there. And even when you mow it, it gets in the mower, it starts spreading out, dropping all the rest of the lawn, grows in long runners. And it's kind of a nightmare, but it is a type of grass. I've let it kind of be in one corner of my lawn. It hasn't gotten totally crazy, but it's like once that really takes over too much of the area, I'm going to have to kill it all, rip it out, and do it again. So that's kind of the longevity aspect of lawns. Now, when it comes to the weeds, what do we do? And so there's a few things that you can do. Obviously, the most obvious, I guess, would be weed and feed. So there is a chemical out there that, and you hear this term a lot, weed and feed, that they put in a fertilizer and it has weed control in it. Now, if you read the bag closely, and I want to get this on the air and tell everybody, you can only use it 2 times a year, and that is the maximum because it will end up leaching into the water table. So please, please, please do not, there's no way to regulate that or really like see if somebody goes down to the store and buys weed and feed. You're feeding your lawn every week or every couple months or whatever with the weed and feed. No one's going to know. So you just have to know and do the right thing and know that we don't want to poison our own water supply underground. So 2 times a year is the max per that lawn. And that should be enough, and you should be able to time it right. Now, it's not saying that you can't do other things in between, because you can. There's also pre-emergence. Now, pre-emergence, that means that it's a chemical that goes down ahead of time before the weeds germinate, and it actually won't allow the seeds to germinate. So you be sure you're not planning on reseeding your lawn and putting down the pre-emergence, because then your lawn seeds won't germinate either. So there's the weed and feed, which is a post, weed chemical. And then there's the pre-emergence, which is ahead of the time that you can put down. There's also one that's not connected to a fertilizer, and you can use it as a spray. Weed Be Gone. There's a couple different brands and names out there that you can spray on the weeds. There are also, and I kind of like that better because maybe you want to put a little more fertilizer, a little less fertilizer. Maybe you want a different type of fertilizer than what comes with the weed and feed. You don't want that exact ratio of the three numbers. And you can't put extra fertilizer when you have a chemical in there. You have to go by what it says, just for the chemical. And so if you can do a separate lawn fertilizer and a separate weed spray, I like that better personally. Now, do what works for you and do what you know how to do. If you've done it, you're doing it twice a year, it works for you, great. Awesome. Now, there's selective weed, herbicides, what they call them, weed killers, and there's non-selective herbicides. So read the labels and understand which one it is that you're doing, and you could use both. And in some cases, you may want to use, it's just like it sounds. If it's non-selective, it kills everything. If it's selective, it will kill the weeds and won't kill the grass. Now, that sounds great, and you can use those, but they're not as effective as the non-selectives, because the non-selectives are really good at just really getting rid of that everything, essentially. It might be worth it if there's a patch of something that's so dense or there's very little grass there anyway, go ahead and spray that with a non-selective, like Roundup, which everyone should, obviously probably knows that name, is non-selective, and Roundup is also systemic. I'm throwing these names and terms out at you, but trying not to put you in school too much, but we've got to talk about this stuff. That systemic means that it actually goes into the plant system and into the roots. If it's not systemic, it kills like a top kill. It doesn't really go into the roots and kill the roots. Now, there's a good chance the weed would probably still die even with a non-systemic, but the systemics really work the best. And glyphosate, which is the active ingredient in Roundup, you can get generic versions of it now, and I would, because there's no reason to pay the price. It's the same exact thing. Will give you probably the best kill out of any of the weed killers. But again, it kills lawn too, so you have to spot spray with it. So if you know where your weeds are, if they're big broadleaf weeds out there, and you try to pull them and the root breaks off and they keep coming back, hit them with some basically what we're calling non-selective systemic, and it'll really kill that weed. It'll kill the root. And then, okay, now you have a dead spot in the grass, but we just talked about it. You can repair the grass, and that's the beautiful thing of it. So really, that's a really legitimate way. Now, if you want to replace your whole lawn, and then it's time to do that, then you could make a case for actually putting the non-selective systemic, which is like the Roundup, glyphosate, that, or another one that's similar to it. You could lay it, basically kill everything, and just go ahead and spray the whole entire lawn. It's not necessary, because the grass itself, even if it came back, if it's good grass, I mean, who cares, But if it's full of weeds, or if there's no real grass to speak of left, or if it's especially something hard like the Bermuda grass, crabgrass, kikuyu grass, those things are horrible for the lawns, and they're all types of grasses. So now know this, that what we talked about, the selective herbicides, where it's weed and feed, it will kill the weeds, won't kill the grass. If the weeds you're going after are grasses, it won't work on them, because Bermuda grass, just like it sounds, is a grass. Kikuyu is a grass. Crabgrass is a grass. So those selective herbicides don't work on them. So there's really no other choice other than the non-selectives to kill those. So if there's a lot of it there, kill it. Now, if it's dirt, it does not work on dirt. So do not spray the dirt. It does nothing. All it does is put a bunch of chemicals in the dirt, and does it. Well, that's the kind of the good thing about it, though, too. On the other side of it, you can spray that I say Roundup, it's glyphosate. You can use the generic version of it, but when you spray it and it touches the dirt, it's no longer active. Which means the good side of that is you can plant basically the next day. So there's no residual effect to it, and that's great. Now, let's say there's weeds there, some kikuyu grass, Bermuda, or dandelions, clover, whatever gets in there, and you really want to, address that, I'll tell you how to do that right on the other side of the break.
You're listening to Patioside Chats with Fernando Martinez from Chaparral Pavers on California's Central Coast. Here on 1240 AM and 99.5 FM, KSMA.
This show is brought to you by Airval Block. Concrete paving stones or pavers are not all created equal. Airval Block pavers are created from a dry mix of gravel, sand, cement, and color. With very little water used, they're super strong. They won't crack or fade. And to be an Airval Block paver, the gravel and sand come from right here on the Central Coast, supporting our local community. Airval Block is the only local manufacturer of concrete masonry products like pavers, mortarless retaining wall blocks. Airval Block products are high quality for peace of mind, and there are many colors to choose from. And if you're not sure which products you need or how to use them, you will always get expert advice from the staff at Airval Block. Products made on the Central Coast for the Central Coast. Visit their fully landscaped outdoor showroom to see the many ways you can use Airval Block products at number 1 Suburban Road in San Luis Obispo, or go online at airvalblock.com.
If you're thinking about installing a new paver patio or paver driveway, check out Chaparral Pavers online at ilovetoComeHome.com. Serving the Central Coast since 2001, Chaparral Pavers will work with you to get it right and complete the job to your specifications, as customer service is king at Chaparral Pavers. Paver driveways are stylish and durable and guaranteed to never crack. If your old concrete driveway or entryway is a hazardous cracking mess, it's time to call Chaparral Pavers. Go to their website, ilovetoComeHome.com. You'll find all the information you need. Check out photographs of past installations and reviews from Central Coast residents who have used Chaparral Pavers. And don't forget, all installations are guaranteed for the life of your home. So check out Chaparral Pavers online at ilovetoComeHome.com. Chaparral Pavers, they'll make you love to come home. Now, back to Patioside Chats with Fernando Martinez from Chaparral Pavers on KSMA.
And we're back. Yes, we're talking about lawns, all things lawns. We still need them. There's a lot of good reasons to have lawns for pets, animals, kids. I love playing lawn games on my grass. Sports, the nice dark green, cool color, the feel, that kind of golf course feel, So it's kind of what we started out talking about. We went through how to repair sod versus seeding. How long does it last? When do you need new sod? And how to kind of take care of this thing with fertilizer, weeds. And so we were finally talking about how to address if your lawn is dead or there's a lot of weeds there and you want to resod, but you want to kill what's there first. And so I was telling you, do not spray the dirt. Use a non-selective and systemic weed killer, and that kills everything, doesn't matter what it is, and it kills the roots. Now, the reason it doesn't work on the dirt is because it binds to the soil, and then you can plant very soon after, so it's a really good thing. But you need to spray it on growing, living leaves. So water the area, even if it's the grass that you don't want, go ahead and water it. And for every day, a couple times a day, and get whatever's there growing active and green and see what's going to come back. Then you spray the green leaves and kill it. Then you wait, let it dry on there, water again, see if you can get something else to grow back after you sprayed. You got to wait 5 to 7 days in between your sprayings and do that 2 or 3 times. Even then, on the really tough ones, there's still a chance it will come back, and you can address that later because, again, they're repairable. You can spot spray, and you can address it at that time. Now, again, check the sprinklers. Make sure you have head-to-head coverage. Very, very important, especially if you're planting new grass. If you don't want to do new sod, you can always do seed. Overseed, you put compost, and you can always put compost in there throughout the year as well. So good luck with the project out there, and we'll see you next week for another great topic. Always remember, you can catch us on Facebook at Chaparral Pavers.
This has been Patioside Chats with Fernando Martinez from Chaparral Pavers. Go to ilovetocomehome.com to find out more, or call 805-588-6917. And be sure and tune in next week at this same time for Patioside Chats here on KSMA.